Great news, because we're getting more new weapon types in Valhalla. Individual weapons are sadly not as exciting as in Odyssey and Origins because of the lack of multiple perks we had in that game. So that's why it's nice that they focus on bringing us new weapon types that completely look and feel different. We already have the sickles, one-handed swords and the scythes of course added since launch, with 2 of them now exclusive to the Season Pass expansions. Although it looks like we will get a free scythe in October, as we discussed in our previous video, and a free sickle should be coming at 1.2. But in this video I want to look at the future, because Jose confirmed to me that at least one familiar weapon is coming as a brand new weapon type to the game, and that we should expect even more weapon types next to that. So I want to speculate a bit as to what we might see. We also have some leaks suggesting what the next weapon type is. So really a ton to go over. If you are excited for new weapon types, then don't leave a like on the video to show your support, and let's go. If you want to participate in my new giveaway for 2,300 Helix credits, you can find the link to that in the pinned comment. And of course you have to be a subscriber of the channel if you want to participate, and good luck. Now that we got Basim's outfit, I think you agree that it would be awesome to also run around with Basim's sword, right? We could already admire this during some of the main missions, and some people like Pyrite and Banana Games actually put footage up of Eivor using Basim's sword with the asset that is in the game. Of course, this is like true hacks, but yeah, it kind of shows that it looks cool, right? So I asked Jose, the post-launch content producer on Valhalla, if this was something we should expect in the future.
You will see another weapon, which I'm sure you already can actually. I'm sure you can guess. It will be from Wrath of the Druids. Yeah, you know, and to be completely blunt, the idea of introducing NPC weapons into, you know, as a player weapon, while it seems at times cool, there's 2 ways we can do it. Right? We could give you just the visual, but not have it be a true new weapon type. I am guessing that one of the reasons why you appreciated the one-handed sword was because it wasn't a simple reskin, but
yeah,
rather...
Sure. Yeah, for sure. So you're basically saying that Kira's sword is a different weapon type than the sword.
Well, that would be, it would be disappointing if it was exactly the same, right?
Oh, okay. Okay, first of all, no Basim sword, at least for the time being, which is kind of sad. I would be down if they were just like adding it as a one-handed sword, like I don't mind. But we are getting Kira swords, and when they are added, they seem to function as a brand new weapon type. She was of course using them at the end of the Wrath of the Druids DLC, and because this was before the one-handed swords were released, I was already studying her moves to see if those were maybe the combos we could do when we got our hands on the one-handed swords. But yeah, as you maybe know by now, they are completely different. And this actually makes looking back at that fight even more interesting. One thing that really stands out is how she's using both weapons together, as if they can only be used this way and not as a one-handed blade. I'm just speculating here, but maybe this will be a weapon type that can only be dual-wielded, kind of like the daggers from Origins, where you always had to use 2, or how we used the dagger and the spear of Leonidas in Odyssey. Sure, we can dual-wield 2 one-handed daggers now in Valhalla, but then you're just combining 2 one-handed attacks, and using the left-hand attack only uses 1 dagger. Also, Kira moves are way slower than with the dagger, and just completely different. So that's what I think it will be, so that you also cannot combine Kira's swords with another weapon in the game. But really, that's just my take. I'm curious to hear your input, of course, in the comments down below. And maybe Eivor will have completely different moves than Kira. That's totally possible. Although I would be surprised if that was the case, because I think Ubisoft might want to use the animations they already created for when the weapons eventually release. We at least know that this weapon is coming at some point, but there's more. Are there more weapon types planned in the future? Yeah, you were already kind of hinting at it, but for example, the two-handed maces and the staffs from the previous games would be cool in Valhalla maybe as well.
You will see more weapon types. One of them that you don't know yet.
Okay, there are many ways we can go about figuring out what the other weapon types might be. There are some leaks out there already that hint at what the next weapon is that will be added, and they all seem to be inspired by NPC weapons. So we can like kind of look at them to see what might be coming. I will touch on that leak, by the way, in a moment. We got that two-handed flail that the big English enemies use, but I don't think we will see that because the flails are kind of underused already. A crossbow would be cool actually from the arbalist enemies, but I think they're gonna stick to melee weapons, although I would love a new ranged weapon. We also got these short spears from the standard bearer enemies that they throw, and then other enemies can actually pick them up, which then unlocks a completely new moveset. Sometimes I am reminded of this again and I'm like, whoa, this is really, really cool. It doesn't happen that often. Would be cool to have like a javelin type weapon for Eivor for some faster spear attacks. And yeah, the flag from the standard bearers is already in the game. It's the weapon from the Harveru set. So that's like an example of them just making an NPC kind of weapon available for Eivor, but like tying it to an existing weapon type. And I'm actually fine with that. Sure, it would be awesome if they all had like new moves, but like that's kind of unrealistic. So if you are not touching any NPC weapons, why not just bring them and tie them to another weapon like the one-handed sword with the Basim sword? But that's just me. Yeah, this weapon was at Red, of course, a couple of times. I really, really like it. Another weapon that comes to mind is, of course, the large halberds that the Frost Giants are using. And we see them in Ireland, for example, too, from the larger Irish enemies. And seems like this weapon is actually coming to the game with the third expansion. And the Reloads namely leaked this in a previous video where we find expansion 3 item Atgeir. Player mentioned in the files with an icon suggesting that this is what the weapon will look like when you like select it in the inventory menu. Atgeir is, I think, how you pronounce it. And yeah, it is of course similar to the heavy bladed weapons we had in the previous games. The sights actually turned out to be quite different, while I did expect them to be closer to the heavy bladed two-handers. So I think it only makes sense that we get a weapon like the Atgeir that is more close to the heavy bladed weapons, especially with the third expansion being a more mythical one. So getting a weapon from the enemy that we're actually fighting makes sense. But there's one more very prominent weapon type in those previous games that I think we will see in Valhalla too. So to recap, we know Kira swords are coming at some point. There are substantial leaks for the Atgeir as part of the third expansion, so I think that's likely real, and this might be the weapon that Jose was referring to when he said it's one that we don't know about yet, because this was before it got leaked. But I also think at one point we will get the two-handed maces again for multiple reasons. One, because they were already in the previous games. Because we got Gamer Lil Games actually finding one NPC weapon in the files from one of the mythical bosses. Like, this makes sense. And we also got concept art of two-handed mace already next to an axe and the Sword of Eden that's actually already in the game. So maybe that's a hint at more of these weapons coming. We got more art of the two-handed maces too. And well, this is a spoiler for the final fight of the Siege of Paris DLC. I put timestamps in the video bar, so if you don't want to know that, if you haven't finished Siege of Paris yet, you can skip ahead to the Photo Mod Showcase if you want. You're still here? Yeah, because Charles the Fat was of course using a two-handed mace in that final boss battle with some interesting new animations. And this really reminds me of Kira. So maybe they do the same treatment for Charles' weapon. I really would not rule it out. It actually makes it quite likely. Subscribe for way more Valhalla content if you haven't already. A like on the video would of course really help me out. I got more info from Jose still. So yeah, I will discuss that very, very soon. You can check out my previous video on all the content that is coming in 2021 by clicking on the screen. And now it's time for the Photo Mod Showcase. You can of course send in your shots to the Valhalla hashtag on Twitter or by using the dedicated pictures channel on our Discord. You can join the Discord also via the link in the pinned comment. Hey Joyce, take it away.
Hello, so we're starting with Nepia Raven with a mix of Tyrannus and Galloglach here on Eivor, looking very fierce and powerful in this shot. We also got Dan Calabro over on Twitter, I hope I pronounced this right, who caught a turtle while fishing in Francia. I love the way the picture is taken, and too bad we can't have it as a pet or something. Look how cute it is. But my favorite one of the series today is the one from Bravehearts, who used the Niflheim's wind figurette you can purchase at settlement level 6 at the merchant. You know, I always find this one super detailed and a bit intimidating with the lit up horns and the bull in the middle. And now with Eivor sitting on top of it wearing the druid armor from the Druids DLC, the creepiness is complete. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think it's a really nice shot. I kind of forgot about this figurehead, but I
Me
might
too.
want to put it on again. So thanks everyone for sharing. Again, share your shots. Maybe you'll be in the next video. And thanks, Joyce. Speak to you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.